This is One Sentence News, a daily podcast featuring 3 news stories with a sentence-long summary and 1 sentence of context apiece. I'm Colin Wright. This is a sponsored message. I've been using Anchor as my podcast host for a while now, and it's been a pleasure to use. Anchor offers benefits that most other hosts do not. It's free to use, but it also has a collection of tools that allow you to create a podcast completely within the Anchor website or smartphone app. They distribute your show to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other distribution channels without any additional effort on your part, and you can make money from your podcast without any minimum audience size. So you can use it as a more traditional podcast host like I do, but it's also got everything you need to start a podcast from scratch. If you're keen to give it a shot, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. It's Wednesday, December 14th, 2022. Let's talk about the news. From Axios, nuclear fusion technology passes key milestone. This is one of those big news but with caveats stories. The National Ignition Facility was able to produce more energy from a fusion reaction than it invested to start that reaction, an important step on the way to eventually, hopefully, producing practically unlimited clean energy. This is just one of more than a dozen recent nuclear fusion-related milestones, and it's the second time researchers have been able to achieve what's called ignition, which is another key milestone in the fusion energy for everyone process. But the main caveat here is that the amount of additional energy produced was minuscule, and that net gain in energy is compared only to the energy required to run the lasers that kickstart the reaction, not all the lighting, the HVAC system, and other components of actually running a functioning real-world reactor. So while this is a big deal, most experts are saying that practical fusion is still at least a decade and probably several decades out. So folks who are hoping for abundant clean energy anytime in the first half of the 21st century are better off betting on things like solar and wind power, at least for the time being. From the Wall Street Journal, Europe strikes deal to tax imports based on greenhouse gas emissions. Following more than a year of negotiations between national governments and the European Parliament, an agreement has been reached to tax imported goods based on the greenhouse gases that were emitted during their production. This agreement, in effect, internalizes the otherwise external costs of producing goods, which should help incentivize the reduction of such emissions on the part of manufacturers, while punishing those who emit more. This is the first such act passed by a major governing body, though there are reports that this decision, and the debate leading up to it, has already spurred other governments into developing their own versions of the same, not wanting to lose a march on the EU in terms of building out the green economy, and not wanting to fall behind in terms of taxation standards. And from the Associated Press, oil spill in rural Kansas Creek shuts down Keystone Pipeline. The Keystone Oil Pipeline, which funnels oil from Canada to the Gulf Coast of Texas and which is run by Canada-based TC Energy, has been shut down due to an oil spill in northeastern Kansas. An estimated 14,000 barrels of oil have spilled into the local environment, which, if accurate, means this spill is substantially smaller than a 2019 spill along a North Dakota-based portion of the same pipeline, which dumped about 383,000 gallons of oil into the surrounding area. But the company has blocked off the area and set up environmental monitoring to ascertain the scope of the problem and figure out what remediation efforts might be necessary. Previous shutdowns of this pipeline have lasted about 2 weeks, though this one could last longer because the leak occurred along a local creek. If you're finding some value in One Sentence News, consider leaving a quick review wherever you get your podcasts and/or sharing the show with a friend. You can find out more about this show or subscribe to the email version at onesentencenews.com. And you can support this and other related projects, like the Let's Know Things and Brain Lenses podcasts, at understandery.com.